Epistle Dedicatory of the Rape of the Lock. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Rape of the Lock by Alexander Pope. Epistle Dedicatory. To Mrs. Arabella Fermor. Madam, it will be in vain to deny that I have some regard for this piece, since I dedicate it to you. Yet you may bear me witness it was intended only to divert a few young ladies, who have good sense and good humour enough to laugh not only at their sex's little unguarded follies, but at their own. But as it was communicated with the air of a secret, it soon found its way into the world. An imperfect copy having been offered to a bookseller, you had the good nature, for my sake, to consent to the publication of one more correct. This I was forced to before I had executed half of my design, for the machinery was entirely wanting to complete it. The machinery, madam, is a term invented by the critics, to signify that part which the deities, angels, or demons are made to act in a poem. For the ancient poets are in one respect like many modern ladies. Let an action be never so trivial in itself, they always make it appear of the utmost importance. These machines I determined to raise on a very new and odd foundation, the Rosicrucian doctrine of spirits. I know how disagreeable it is to make use of hard words before a lady, but it is so much the concern of a poet to have his works understood, and particularly by your sex, that you must give me leave to explain 2 or 3 difficult terms. The Rosicrucians are a people I must bring you acquainted with. The best account I know for them is in a French book called Le Comte de Gabalis, which both in its title and size is so like a novel, that many of the fair sex have read it for one by mistake. According to these gentlemen, the 4 elements are inhabited by spirits, which they call sylphs, gnomes, nymphs, and salamanders. The gnomes, or demons of earth, delight in mischief, but the sylphs, whose habitation is in the air, are the best conditioned creatures imaginable. For they say, any mortal may enjoy the most intimate familiarities with these gentle spirits, upon a condition very easy to all true adepts, an inviolate preservation of chastity. As to the following cantos, all the passages of them are as fabulous as the vision at the beginning, or the transformation at the end, except the loss of your hair, which I always mention with reverence. The human persons are as fictitious as the airy ones, and the character of Belinda, as it is now managed, resembles you in nothing but in beauty. If this poem has as many graces as there are in your person or in your mind, yet I could never hope it should pass through the world half so uncensured as you have done. But let its fortune be what it will, mine is happy enough to have given me this occasion of assuring you that I am, with the truest esteem, madam, your most obedient, humble servant, A. Pope. End of Epistle Dedicatory. Recording by Rhonda Fetterman. Canto I of The Rape of the Lock by Alexander Pope. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. What dire offence from amorous causes springs? What mighty contests rise from trivial things? I sing. This verse to Carol, muse, is due. This even Belinda may vouchsafe to view. Slight is the subject, but not so the praise, if she inspire, and he approve my lays. Say what strange motive, goddess, could compel a well-bred lord to assault a gentle belle? Oh, say what stranger cause, yet unexplored, could make a gentle belle reject a lord? In tasks so bold can little men engage, and in soft bosoms dwell such mighty rage. Saul through white curtains shot a tim'rous ray, And oped those eyes that must eclipse the day. Now lap dogs give themselves the rousing shake, And sleepless lovers just at 12 awake. Thrice rung the bell, the slipper knocked the ground, And the pressed watch returned a silver sound. Belinda still her downy pillow pressed, Her guardian sylph prolonged the balmy rest. 'Twas he had summoned to her silent bed The morning dream that hovered o'er her head. A youth more glittering than a birthnight beau, That even in slumber caused her cheek to glow, Seemed to her ear his winning lips to lay, And thus in whispers said, or seemed to say: "Fairest of mortals, thou distinguished care Of thousand bright inhabitants of air, If e'er one vision touch thy infant thought Of all the nurse and all the priest have taught, Of airy elves by moonlight shadows seen, The silver token and the circled green, Or virgins visited by angel powers, With golden crowns and wreaths of heavenly flowers, Hear and believe, thy own importance know, Nor bound thy narrow views to things below. Some secret truths from learned pride concealed, To maids alone and children are revealed. What though no credit doubting wits may give, The fair and innocent shall still believe. Know then, unnumbered spirits round thee fly, The light militia of the lower sky. These, though unseen, are ever on the wing, Hang o'er the box and hover round the ring. Think what an equipage thou hast in air, And view with scorn 2 pages and a chair. As now your own our beings were of old, And once enclosed in woman's beauteous mould. Thence by a soft transition we repair From earthly vehicles to these of air. Think not, when woman's transient breath is fled, That all her vanities at once are dead. Succeeding vanities she still regards, And though she plays no more, or looks the cards, Her joy in gilded chariots, when alive, And love of ombre after death survive. For when the fair in all their pride expire, To their first elements their souls retire. The sprites of fiery termagants and flame Mount up and take a salamander's name. Soft yielding minds to water glide away, And sip with nymphs their elemental tea. The graver prude sinks downward to a gnome, In search of mischief still on earth to roam. The light coquettes in sylphs aloft repair, And sport and flutter in the fields of air. Know further yet, whoever fair and chaste Rejects mankind is by some sylph embraced. For spirits freed from mortal laws, with ease Assume what sexes and what shapes they please. What guards the purity of melting maids In courtly balls and midnight masquerades, Safe from the treacherous friend, the darling spark, The glance by day, the whisper in the dark. When kind occasion prompts their warm desires, When music softens, and when dancing fires, 'Tis but their sylph the wise celestials know, Though honor is the word with men below. Some nymphs there are, too conscious of their face, For life predestined to the gnome's embrace. These swell their prospects, and exalt their pride, When offers are disdained and love denied. Then gay ideas crowd the vacant brain, While peers and dukes in all their sweeping train, And garters, stars, and coronets appear, And in soft sounds your grace salutes their ear. 'Tis these that early taint the female soul, Instruct the eyes of young coquettes to roll, Teach infant cheeks a bidden blush to know, And little hearts to flutter at a beau. Oft when the world imagine women stray, The sylphs through mystic mazes guide their way, Through all the giddy circle they pursue, And old impertinence expel by new. What tender maid but must a victim fall To one man's treat, but for another's ball? When Florio speaks, what virgin could withstand, If gentle Damon did not squeeze her hand? With varying vanities from every part, They shift the moving toy shop of their heart, Where wigs, with sword knots strive, Beaux banish beaux, and coaches, drive. This erring mortals levity may call, O blind to truth, the sylphs contrive it all. Of these am I, who thy protection claim, A watchful sprite, and Ariel is my name. Late as I ranged the crystal wilds of air, In the clear mirror of thy ruling star, I saw, alas, some dread event impend, Ere to the main this morning sun descend. But Heaven reveals not what, or how, or where. Warned by the sylph, O pious maid, beware! This to disclose is all thy guardian can. Beware of all, but most beware of man. He said, when Shock, who thought she slept too long, Leaped up and waked his mistress with his tongue. 'Twas then, Belinda, if report say true, Thy eyes first opened on a billet doux. Wounds, charms, and ardours were not sooner read, But all the vision vanish'd from thy head. And now, unveiled, the toilet stands displayed, Each silver vase in mystic order laid. First robed in white, the nymph intent adores, With head uncovered the cosmetic powers. A heavenly image in the glass appears, To that she bends, to that her eyes she rears. The inferior priestess at her altar's side, Trembling begins the sacred rites of pride. Unnumbered treasures ope at once, and here The various offerings of the world appear. From each she nicely culls with curious toil, And decks the goddess with the glitt'ring spoil. This casket India's glowing gems unlocks, And all Arabia breathes from yonder box. The tortoise here and elephant unite, Transformed to combs the speckled and the white. Here files of pins extend their shining rows, Puffs powders, patches Bibles, billets doux. Now awful beauty puts on all its arms, The fair each moment rises in her charms, Repairs her smiles, awakens every grace, And calls forth all the wonders of her face. Sees by degrees a purer blush arise, And keener lightnings quicken in her eyes. The busy sylphs surround their darling care, These set the head, and those divide the hair. Some fold the sleeve, whilst others plait the gown, And Betty's praised for labours not her own. End of Canto 1. Recording by Rhonda Fetterman. Canto 2 of The Rape of the Lock by Alexander Pope. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Not with more glories in the ethereal plain The sun first rises o'er the purpled main, Then issuing forth the rival of his beams, Launched on the bosom of the silver Thames. Fair nymphs and well-dressed youths around her shone, But every eye was fixed on her alone. On her white breast a sparkling cross she wore, Which Jews might kiss, and infidels adore. Her lively looks a sprightly mind disclose, Quick as her eyes, and unfixed as those, Favours to none, to all she smiles extends, Oft she rejects, but never once offends. Bright as the sun her eyes the gazers strike, And like the sun they shine on all alike. Yet graceful ease, and sweetness void of pride, Might hide her faults, if belles had faults to hide. If to her share some female errors fall, Look on her face, and you'll forget them all. This nymph to the destruction of mankind Nourish'd two locks, which graceful hung behind, In equal curls, and well conspired to deck With shining ringlets the smooth ivory neck. Love in these labyrinths his slaves detains, And mighty hearts are held in slender chains. With hairy springes we the birds betray, Slight lines of hair surprise the finny prey. Fair tresses man's imperial race ensnare, And beauty draws us with a single hair. The adventurous baron the bright locks admired, He saw, he wish'd, and to the prize aspired. Resolved to win, he meditates the way, By force to ravish, or by fraud betray. For when success a lover's toil attends, Few ask if fraud or force attained his ends. For this, ere Phoebus rose, he had implored Propitious heaven and every power adored. But chiefly love, to love an altar built Of 12 vast French romances, neatly gilt. There lay 3 garters, half a pair of gloves, And all the trophies of his former loves. With tender billet doux he lights the pyre, And breathes 3 amorous sighs to raise the fire. Then prostrate falls, and begs with ardent eyes Soon to obtain, and long possess the prize. The powers gave ear, and granted half his prayer, The rest the winds dispersed in empty air. But now secure the painted vessel glides, The sunbeams trembling on the floating tides, While melting music steals upon the sky, And softened sounds along the waters die. Smooth flow the waves, the zephyrs gently play. Belinda smiled, and all the world was gay. All but the sylph, with careful thought oppressed, The impending woe sat heavy on his breast. He summoned straight his denizens of air, The lucid squadrons round the sails repair. Soft o'er the clouds the aerial whispers breathe, That seem'd but zephyrs to the train beneath. Some to the sun their insect wings unfold, Waft on the breeze, or sink in clouds of gold. Transparent forms too fine for mortal sight, Their fluid bodies half dissolved in light. Loose to the wind their airy garments flew, Thin glittering textures of the filmy dew. Dipped in the richest tincture of the skies, Where light disports in ever mingling dyes, While every beam new transient colours flings, Colours that change whene'er they wave their wings. Amid the circle on the gilded mast, Superior by the head, was Ariel placed. His purple pinions opening to the sun, He raised his azure wand, and thus begun: Ye sylphs and sylphids, to your chief give ear, Fays, fairies, genii, elves, and demons hear. Ye know the spheres and various tasks assigned By laws eternal to the aerial kind. Some in the fields of purest ether play, And bask and whiten in the blaze of day. Some guide the course of wandering orbs on high, Or roll the planets thro' the boundless sky. Some less refined, beneath the moon's pale light, Pursue the stars that shoot athwart the night, Or suck the mists in grosser air below. or dip their pinions in the painted bow, or brew fierce tempests on the wintry main, or o'er the glebe distil the kindly rain. Others on earth or human race preside, watch all their ways, and all their actions guide. Of these the chief the care of nations own, and guard with arms divine the British throne. Our humbler province is to tend the fair, not a less pleasing, though less glorious care, to save the powder from too rude a gale, nor let the imprisoned essences exhale, to draw fresh colors from the vernal flowers, to steal from rainbows ere they drop in showers, a brighter wash, to curl their waving hairs, assist their blushes and inspire their airs. Nay, oft in dreams invention we bestow, to change a flounce or add a furbelow. This day black omens threat the brightest fair, that e'er deserved a watchful spirit's care. Some dire disaster, or by force or sleight, but what or where the fates have wrapped in night. Whether the nymph shall break Diana's law, or some frail china jar receive a flaw, or stain her honor or her new brocade, forget her prayers or miss a masquerade, or lose her heart or necklace at a ball, or whether heaven has doomed that shock must fall. Haste then, ye spirits, to your charge repair, the fluttering fan by Zephyretta's care. The drops to thee, brilliant, we consign, and Momentilla let the watch be thine. Do thou, Crespissa, tend her favorite lock, Ariel himself shall be the guard of shock. To 50 chosen sylphs of special note We trust the important charge, the petticoat. Oft we have known that sevenfold fence to fail, Though stiff with hoops and armed with ribs of whale. Form a strong line about the silver bound, And guard the wide circumference around. Whatever spirit careless of his charge His post neglects, or leaves the fair at large, Shall feel sharp vengeance soon o'ertake his sins, Be stopped in vials, or transfixed with pins, Or plunged in lakes of bitter washes lie, Or wedged whole ages in a bodkin's eye. Gums and pomatums shall his flight retrain, While clogged he beats his silken wings in vain. Or alum styptics with contracting power Shrink his thin essence like a rivelled flower. Or as Ixion fixed, the wretch shall feel The giddy motion of the whirling mill, In fumes of burning chocolate shall glow, And tremble at the sea that froths below. He spoke; the spirits from the sails descend, Some, orb in orb, around the nymph extend. Some thread the mazy ringlets of her hair, Some hang upon the pendants of her ear. With beating hearts the dire event they wait, Anxious and trembling for the birth of fate. End of Canto 2. Recording by Rhonda Fetterman. Canto 3 of The Rape of the Lock by Alexander Pope. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Close by those meads, forever crowned with flowers, Where Thames with pride surveys his rising towers, There stands a structure of majestic frame, Which from the neighbouring Hampden takes its name. Here Britain's statesmen oft the fall foredoom Of foreign tyrants and of nymphs at home. Here thou, great Anna, whom 3 realms obey, Dost sometimes counsel take, and sometimes tea. Hither the heroes and the nymphs resort, To taste awhile the pleasures of a court. In various talk the instructive hours they passed, Who gave the ball, or paid the visit last. One speaks the glory of the British Queen, and one describes a charming Indian screen. A third interprets motions, looks, and eyes. At every word a reputation dies. Snuff or the fan supply each pause of chat with singing, laughing, ogling, and all that. Meanwhile, declining from the noon of day, the sun obliquely shoots his burning ray. The hungry judges soon the sentence sign, and wretches hang that jurymen may dine. The merchant from the exchange returns in peace, and the long labors of the toilet cease. Belinda now, whom thirst of fame invites, burns to encounter two adventurous knights. At Omber singly to decide their doom, and swells her breast with conquests yet to come. Straight the three bands prepare in arms to join, each band the number of the sacred Nine. Soon as she spreads her hand, the ethereal guard descend and sit on each important card. First Ariel perched upon a matador, then each according to the rank they bore. For sylphs, yet mindful of their ancient race, are, as when women, wondrous fond of place. Behold 4 kings in majesty revered, with hoary whiskers and a forky beard, and 4 fair queens whose hands sustain a flower, the expressive emblem of their softer power. 4 knaves in garbs succinct, a trusty band, caps on their heads and halberts in their hand, and party-colored troops, a shining train, draw forth to combat on the velvet plain. The skilful nymph reviews her force with care. "Let spades be trumps," she said, and trumps they were. Now move to war her sable matadors, in show like leaders of the swarthy Moors. Spadillo first, unconquerable lord, led off 2 captive trumps and swept the board. As many more Manilio forced to yield, and marched a victor from the verdant field. Him Basto followed, but his fate more hard, gained but 1 trump and 1 plebeian card. With his broad sabre next, a chief in years, the hoary majesty of spades appears, puts forth 1 manly leg, to sight revealed, the rest his many-colored robe concealed. The rebel knave, who dares his prince engage, proves the just victim of his royal rage. Even mighty Pam, that kings and queens o'erthrew, and mowed down armies in the fights of Loo. Sad chance of war, now destitute of aid, falls undistinguished by the victor's spade. Thus far both armies to Belinda yield, now to the barren fate inclines the field. His warlike Amazon her host invades, the imperial consort of the crown of spades. The club's black tyrant first her victim died, spite of his haughty mien and barbarous pride. What boots the regal circle on his head, his giant limbs in state unwieldy spread, that long behind he trails his pompous robe, and of all monarchs only grasps the globe. The baron now his diamonds pour apace, the embroidered king who shows but half his face, and his refulgent queen, with powers combined, of broken troops an easy conquest find. Clubs, diamonds, hearts, in wild disorder seen, with throngs promiscuous, strew the level green. Thus when dispersed a routed army runs, of Asia's troops and Afric's sable sons. With like confusion different nations fly, of various habit and of various dye. The pierced battalions disunited fall, in heaps on heaps, one fate o'erwhelms them all. The knave of diamonds tries his wily arts, and wins, O shameful chance, the queen of hearts. At this the blood the virgin's cheek forsook, A livid paleness spreads o'er all her look. She sees and trembles at the approaching ill, Just in the jaws of ruin and Codille. And now, as oft, in some distempered state, On one nice trick depends the general fate. An ace of hearts steps forth. The king unseen Lurked in her hand and mourned his captive queen. He springs to vengeance with an eager pace, And falls like thunder on the prostrate ace. The nymph exulting fills with shouts the sky, The walls, the woods, and long canals reply. O thoughtless mortals, ever blind to fate, Too soon dejected and too soon elate! Sudden these honours shall be snatched away, And cursed for ever this victorious day. For lo! the board with cups and spoons is crowned, The berries crackle and the mill turns round. On shining altars of Japan they raise The silver lamp, the fiery spirits blaze. From silver spouts the grateful liquors glide, While China's earth receives the smoking tide. At once they gratify their scent and taste, And frequent cups prolong the rich repast. Straight hover round the fair her airy bank, Some as she sipped the fuming liquor fanned, Some o'er her lap their careful plumes displayed, Trembling and conscious of the rich brocade. Coffee, which makes the politician wise, And see through all things with his half shut eyes, Sent up in vapours to the baron's brain New stratagems, the radiant lock to gain. Ah, cease, rash youth! desist ere 'tis too late! Fear the just gods, and think of Scylla's fate. Changed to a bird and sent to flit in air, She dearly pays for Nisus's injured hair. But when to mischief mortals bend their will, How soon they find fit instruments of ill! Just then Clarissa drew with tempting grace A two-edged weapon from her shining case. So ladies in romance assist their knight, Present the spear, and arm him for the fight. He takes the gift with reverence, and extends The little engine on his fingers' ends. This just behind Belinda's neck he spread, As o'er the fragment steams she bends her head. Swift to the lock 1,000 sprites repair, 1,000 wings by turns blow back the hair, And thrice they twitched the diamond in her ear, Thrice she looked back, and thrice the foe drew near. Just at that instant anxious Ariel sought The close recesses of the virgin's thought. As on the nosegay in her breast reclined, He watched the ideas rising in her mind. Sudden he viewed, in spite of all her art, An earthly lover lurking at her heart. Amazed, confused, he found his power expired, Resigned to fate, and with a sigh retired. The peer now spreads the glittering forefex wide, T' enclose the lock, now joins it to divide. Even then, before the fatal engine closed, A wretched sylph too fondly interposed. Fate urged the shears, and cut the sylph in twain, But airy substance soon unites again. The meeting points the sacred hair dissever From the fair head for ever and for ever. Then flash the living lightning from her eyes, And screams of horror rend the affrighted skies. Not louder shrieks to pitying heaven are cast, When husbands or when lap–dogs breathe their last, Or when rich china vessels fallen from high In glittering dust and painted fragments lie. Let wreaths of triumph now my temples twine, The victor cried, the glorious prize is mine. while fish in streams or birds delight in air, or in a coach and six the British fare. As long as Atlantis shall be red, or the small pillow grace a lady's bed, while visits shall be paid on solemn days, when numerous wax lights in bright order blaze, while nymphs take treats or assignations give, so long my honour, name, and praise shall live. What time would spare from steel receives its date, and monuments like men submit to fate. Steel could the labour of the gods destroy, and strike to dust the imperial towers of Troy. Steel could the works of mortal pride confound, and hew triumphal arches to the ground. What wonder then, fair nymph, thy hairs should feel the conquering force of unresisted steel? End of Canto 3. Recording by Rhonda Fetterman. Canto 4 of The Rape of the Lock by Alexander Pope. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. But anxious cares the pensive nymph oppressed, and secret passions labored in her breast. Not youthful kings in battle seized alive, not scornful virgins who their charms survive, not ardent lovers robbed of all their bliss, not ancient ladies when refused a kiss, not tyrants fierce that unrepenting die, not Cynthia when her Mantua's pinned awry, ever felt such rage, resentment, and despair As thou, sad virgin, for thy ravished hair. For that sad moment when the sylphs withdrew, And Ariel, weeping, from Belinda flew, Umbriel, a dusky melancholy sprite, As ever sullied the fair face of light, Down to the central earth, his proper scene, Repaired to search the gloomy cave of spleen. Swift on his sooty pinions flits the gnome, And in a vapour reached the dismal dome. No cheerful breeze this sullen region knows, The dreaded east is all the wind that blows. Here in a grotto sheltered close from air, And screened in shades from day's detested glare, She sighs for ever on her pensive bed, Pain at her side, and Megrim at her head. Two handmaids wait the throne, alike in place, But differing far in figure and in face. Here stood ill Nature, like an ancient maid, Her wrinkled form in black and white arrayed, With store of prayers for mornings, nights, and noons. Her hand is filled, her bosom with lampoons. There Affectation, with a sickly mien, Shows in her cheek the roses of 18. Practised to lisp and hang the head aside, Faints into airs and languishes with pride. On the rich quilt sinks with becoming woe, Wrapped in a gown for sickness and for show. The fair ones feel such maladies as these, When each new night dress gives a new disease. A constant vapour o'er the palace flies, Strange phantoms rising as the mists arise, Dreadful as hermits' dreams in haunted shades, Or bright as visions of expiring maids. Now glaring fiends and snakes on rolling spires, Pale spectres, gaping tombs, and purple fires. Now lakes of liquid gold, Elysian scenes, And crystal domes, and angels in machines. Unnumbered throngs on every side are seen, Of bodies changed to various forms by spleen. Here living teapots stand, one arm held out, One bent, the handle this, and that the spout. A pipkin there, like Homer's tripod, walks, Here sighs a jar, and there a goose pie talks. Men prove with child as powerful fancy works, and maids turned bottles call aloud for corks. Safe passed the gnome through this fantastic band, a branch of healing spleenwort in his hand. Then thus addressed the power: "Hail, wayward queen, who rule the sex to 50 from 15, parent of vapors and of female wit, who give the hysteric or poetic fit, on various tempers act by various ways, make some take physic, others scribble plays, who cause the proud their visits to delay, and send the godly in a pet to pray. A nymph there is that all your power disdains, and thousands more in equal mirth maintains. But oh, if e'er thy gnome could spoil a grace, or raise a pimple on a beauteous face, like citron waters matrons' cheeks inflame, or change complexions at a losing game; if e'er with airy horns I planted heads, or rumpled petticoats, or tumbled beds, or caused suspicion when no soul was rude, or discomposed the head dress of a prude, or e'er to costive lapdog gave disease, which not the tears of brightest eyes could ease, hear me, and touch Belinda with chagrin: that single act gives half the world the spleen." The goddess, with a discontented air, Seems to reject him, though she grants his prayer. A wondrous bag with both her hands she binds, Like that where once Ulysses held the winds. There she collects the force of female lungs, Sighs, sobs, and passions, and the war of tongues. A vial next she fills with fainting fears, Soft sorrows, melting griefs, and flowing tears. The gnome rejoicing bears her gifts away, Spreads his black wings, and slowly mounts to day. Sunk in Philestre's arms, the nymph he found, Her eyes dejected and her hair unbound. Full o'er their heads the swelling bag he rent, And all the Furies issued at the vent. Belinda burns with more than mortal ire, And fierce Thalestris fans the rising fire. "O wretched maid!" she spread her hands and cried, While Hampton's echoes, "Wretched maid," replied. "Was it for this you took such constant care, The bodkin, comb, and essence to prepare? For this your locks in paper durance bound? For this with torturing irons wreathed around? For this with fillets strained your tender head, And bravely bore the double loads of lead? Gods! shall the ravisher display your hair, While the fops envy and the ladies stare? Honour forbid! At whose unrivalled shrine Ease, pleasure, virtue, all, our sex resign? Methinks already I your tears survey, Already hear the horrid things they say, Already see you a degraded toast, And all your honour in a whisper lost. How shall I then your hapless fame defend? 'Twill then be infamy to seem your friend. And shall this prize, this inestimable prize, Exposed through crystal to the gazing eyes, And heightened by the diamond's circling rays On that rapacious hand for ever blaze? Sooner shall grass in Hyde Park Circus grow, And wits take lodgings in the sound of bow. Sooner let earth, air, sea to chaos fall, Men, monkeys, lapdogs, parrots, perish all." She said, then raging to Sir Plume repairs, And bids her beau demand the precious hairs. Sir Plume, of amber snuff box justly vain, And the nice conduct of a clouded cane, With earnest eyes and round unthinking face, He first the snuff box opened, then the case, And thus broke out: "My lord, why what the devil! Zad's damn the lock, 'fore God you must be civil. Plague on it! 'tis past a jest. Nay, prithee, pox! Give her the hair." He spoke, and rapped his box. "It grieves me much," replied the peer again, "Who speaks so well should ever speak in vain; But by this lock, this sacred lock, I swear, Which never more shall join its parted hair, Which never more its honours shall renew, Clipped from the lovely head where late it grew, That, while my nostrils draw the vital air, This hand, which won it, shall for ever wear." He spoke, and speaking in proud triumph spread The long contended honours of her head. But Umbriel, hateful gnome, forbears not so; He breaks the vial whence the sorrows flow. Then see! the nymph in beauteous grief appears, Her eyes half languishing, half drowned in tears. On her heavy bosom hung her drooping head, Which with a sigh she raised, and thus she said: "For ever cursed be this detested day, Which snatched my best, my favourite curl away! Happy, ah, 10 times happy had I been, If Hampton Court these eyes had never seen. Yet am not I the first mistaken maid, By love of courts to numerous ills betrayed. Oh, had I rather unadmired remained, In some lone isle or distant northern land, Where the gilt chariot never marks the way, Where none learn amber, none e'er taste Bohea, There kept my charms concealed from mortal eye, Like roses that in deserts bloom and die. What moved my mind with youthful lords to roam? Oh, had I stayed and said my prayers at home! 'Twas this morning omens seemed to tell, Thrice from my trembling hand the patch box fell. The tottering china shook without a wind; Nay, Pole sat mute, and shock was most unkind. A sylph, too, warned me of the threats of fate, In mystic visions now believed too late. See the poor remnants of these slighted hairs! My hand shall rend what even thy rapine spares. These into sable ringlets taught to break, Once gave new beauties to the snowy neck. The sister lock now sits uncouth alone, And in its fellow's fate foresees its own. Uncurled it hangs, the fatal shears demands, And tempts one more thy sacrilegious hands. Oh, hadst thou, cruel, been content to seize Hairs less in sight, or any hairs but these. End of Canto 4. Recording by Rhonda Fetterman. Canto 5 of The Rape of the Lock by Alexander Pope. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. She said, the pitying audience melt in tears, But Fate and Jove had stopped the Baron's ears. In vain Thalestris with reproach assails, For who can move when fair Belinda fails? Not half so fixed the Trojan could remain, While Anna begged and Dido raged in vain. Then grave Clarissa graceful waved her fan, Silence ensued, and thus the nymph began: "Say, why are beauties praised and honored most, The wise man's passion and the vain man's toast? Why decked with all that land and sea afford? Why angels called, and angel like adored? Why round our coaches crowd the white gloved beaux? Why bows the side box from its inmost rows? How vain are all these glories, all our pains, Unless good sense preserve what beauty gains! That men may say when we the front box grace, Behold the first in virtue as in face. Oh, if to dance all night, and dress all day, Charmed the small pox or chased old age away! Who would not scorn what housewife's cares produce, Or who would learn one earthly thing of use? To patch, nay, ogle might become a saint, Nor could it sure be such a sin to paint. But since, alas! frail beauty must decay, Curled or uncurled, since locks will turn to gray, Since painted or not painted all shall fade, And she who scorns a man must die a maid, What then remains but well our power to use, And keep good humour still whate'er we lose? And trust me, dear, good humour can prevail, When airs, and flights, and screams, and scolding fail. Beauties in vain their pretty eyes may roll, Charms strike the sight, but merit wins the soul. So spoke the dame, but no applause ensued. Belinda frowned, Thalestris called her prude. "To arms! to arms!" the fierce virago cries, And swift as lightning to the combat flies. All side in parties, and begin the attack. Fans clap, silks rustle, and tough whalebones crack. Heroes and heroines, shouts confusedly rise, And bass and treble voices strike the skies. No common weapons in their hands are found, Like gods they fight, nor dread a mortal wound. So when bold Homer makes the gods engage, And heavenly breasts with human passions rage, 'Gainst Pallas, Mars, Latona, Hermes arms, And all Olympus rings with loud alarms. Jove's thunder roars, heaven trembles all around, Blue Neptune storms, and bell-winged deeps resound. Earth shakes her nodding towers, the ground gives way, And the pale ghosts start at the flash of day. Triumphant Umbriel, on a sconce's height, Clapped his glad wings, and sat to view the fight. Propped on their bodkin spears, the sprites survey The growing combat, or assist the fray. While thro' the press enraged Thalestris flies, And scatters death around them both her eyes. A beau and witling perished in the throng, One died in metaphor, and one in song. "O cruel nymph, a living death I bear!" Cried dapper wit, and sunk beside his chair. A mournful glance Sir Fopling upwards cast, "Those eyes are made so killing," was his last. Thus on Meander's flowery margin lies The expiring swan, and as he sings he dies. When bold Sir Plume had drawn Clarissa down, Chloe stepped in, and killed him with a frown. She smiled to see the doughty hero slain, But at her smile the beau revived again. Now Jove suspends his golden scales in air, Weighs the men's wits against the ladies' hair. The doubtful beam long nods from side to side, At length the wits mount up, the hair subside. See fierce Belinda on the baron flies, With more than usual lightning in her eyes. Nor feared the chief the unequal fight to try, Who sought no more than on his foe to die. But this bold lord, with manly strength endued, She with one finger and a thumb subdued. Just where the breath of life his nostrils drew, A charge of snuff the wily virgin threw. The gnomes direct to every atom just The pungent grains of titillating dust. Sudden with starting tears each eye o'erflows, And the high dome re echoes to his nose. "Now meet thy fate!" incensed Belinda cried, And drew a deadly bodkin from her side. The same his ancient personage to deck, Her great great grandsire wore about his neck, In 3 seal rings, which after melted down, Formed a vast buckle for his widow's gown. Her infant grandame's whistle next it grew, The bell she jingled and the whistle blew. Then in a bodkin graced her mother's hairs, Which long she wore, and now Belinda wears. "Boast not my fall," he cried, "insulting foe! Thou by some other shalt be laid as low. Nor think to die dejects my lofty mind; All that I dread is leaving you behind. Rather than so, ah, let me still survive, And burn in Cupid's flames, but burn alive." "Restore the lock!" she cries, and all around, "Restore the lock!" The vaulted roofs rebound. Not fierce Othello in so loud a strain Roared for the handkerchief that caused his pain. But see how oft ambitious aims are crossed, And chiefs contend till all the prize is lost. The lock, obtained with guilt, and kept with pain, In every place is sought, but sought in vain. With such a prize no mortal must be blest; So Heaven decrees, with Heaven who can contest? Some thought it mounted to the lunar sphere, Since all things lost on earth are treasured there. There heroes' wits are kept in ponderous vases, And beaux in snuff boxes and tweezer cases. There broken vows and death bed alms are found, And lovers' hearts with ends of riband bound. The courtier's promises and sick man's prayers, The smiles of harlots and the tears of heirs. Cages for gnats and chains to yoke a flea, Dried butterflies, and tomes of casuistry. But trust the Muse, she saw it upward rise, Though marked by none but quick poetic eyes. So Rome's great founder to the heavens withdrew, To Proculus alone confessed in view. A sudden star, it shot thro' liquid air, And drew behind a radiant trail of hair. Not Berenice's locks first rose so bright, The heavens bespangling with dishevelled light. The sylphs behold it kindling as it flies, And pleased pursue its progress thro' the skies. This the beau monde shall from the mall survey, And hail with music its propitious ray. This the blest lover shall for Venus take, And send up vows from Rosamonda's lake. This partridge soon shall view in cloudless skies, When next he looks through Galileo's eyes. And hence the egregious wizard shall foredoom The fate of Louis and the fall of Rome. Then cease, bright nymph, to mourn thy ravished hair, Which adds new glory to the shining sphere. Not all the tresses that fair head can boast Shall draw such envy as the lock you lost. For after all the murders of your eye, When after millions slain yourself shall die, When those fair suns shall set, as set they must, And all those tresses shall be laid in dust, This lock the Muse shall consecrate to fame, And midst the stars inscribe Belinda's name. End of Canto 5. Recording by Rhonda Fetterman. End of The Rape of the Lock by Alexander Pope.